All right. So I was just having a conversation with a coaching client, and one of the first questions he asked me was, how do I actually gain confidence so that I can go out into the marketplace, not feel like this imposter, and actually win listings? Because I keep going up against agents that maybe have more experience than me, and I just keep losing opportunities. And I want to share with all of you some of the insights and the conversation I was having with him that I think will really help. And the reason for that is this: the thing that we're actually selling at the listing appointment in order to acquire a new client is confidence. And so the question is, well, how do I actually gain the confidence to go out there and win my next listing? So first, let me kind of walk you through the problem. And the problem is that a lot of agents feel that imposter syndrome. They feel like, man, I just don't have the conviction inside myself, let alone go and meet with a potential seller and communicate in a way that would have them believe that I could actually get the job done. I myself don't even believe that I can get the job done. Well, why is that? Number one, it's because they don't have their finger on the pulse of the market. And so through coaching thousands of agents, we'll talk more about what that means here in just a second. But when I say they don't have their finger on the pulse of the market, it's because when an agent doesn't do a lot of transactions, they don't sell a lot of property, they don't have any type of conviction around the type of properties that are selling, the length of time in which they're selling, the type of showing activity they can expect, the type of offers that are being written, what buyer agents are like negotiate. They don't have their finger on the pulse of the market. Whereas agents that do, quite frankly, they know exactly what's going to happen when they list a property. They know exactly how many showings it's going to take before they actually get an offer. They know exactly how many offers they should get on a certain type of property. And so that's the first thing that causes an agent to not have the confidence or feel like they're an imposter. Number two is they don't have a specific pricing strategy to make their listings the obvious choice. Now, yeah, they could probably do a CMA, but with no confidence at all, do they know where or how to position that property in the marketplace such that they are absolutely certain that they have priced it right, they've positioned it correctly, where they know, because they've done some things that we're going to talk about later in this video, an active buyer analysis, that they know for certain that that property is going to sell. They don't know that. And so they kind of wing it when it comes to pricing. They like, well, I kind of think this is where it's going to be priced at, but I just don't know. This causes them to have a lack of confidence. Makes total sense. And then the third problem is they cannot articulate their value proposition to sellers. In other words, when a seller were to ask them, and we'll talk later in this video about this as well, they were to ask them, hey, why should I hire you versus another agent? This is like the kiss of death for most agents. They just cannot answer it. They don't know how to answer it. And so we're going to address all three of these. So first, let's talk about knowing the market, and I'll give you some recommendations. Number one is to start previewing active listings. You see, this is one of the best things that an agent that doesn't have a lot of confidence right now can start to do, because it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. You can go and preview active listings that are on the market with other agents right now. And there is no better way to put your finger on the pulse than this, where you're out there walking through real properties that are actually listed on the open market right now, and you can score these properties. This is something that I have all my coaching clients do. Is when you go out there and you start previewing active listings, you can start tracking those properties throughout the life cycle of the time that they're on the market, and you could score them. You could score the condition. You could do a CMA and compare your CMA with the listing agent's list price. You could track how long it took to get an offer. You could track how long it took to close. You could track all of this for the next 10, 20, 30 properties. And quickly you start to say, wow, I can actually connect the dots. I actually see that properties on this side of town end up selling for a lot more than this side of town because of this, that, and the other thing. So start to preview active listings, start to track the active listings as they come in and out of the market. Number 2, study the expired listings for the past 90 days. So go inside of the MLS. So now as you're tracking the active listing inventory, again, we're talking about having your finger on the pulse of the market. After you start previewing actives and you start to really understand the inventory out there, the active inventory, now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to actually study what went wrong with properties that failed to sell over the past 3 months. And we're going to really, really study it. How were they priced? What price bracketing strategy did they use? How long did they sit on the market? What was the property condition like? How was the marketing? How was the positioning of the property? And you get to study and you start to look at trends and you start to say, wow, properties in this city, in this price bracket, don't sell very rarely within this price bracket versus this price bracket. You could start to create trends. Now you're starting to build up some confidence. Number 3, now we're going to start studying the current pendings. This tells us what? This tells us what buyers want right now. Now, I know you can't see how much the property is under contract for. I get it. You don't need that. You need to see, okay, how long has it been on the market? And that will tell you the type of properties at which price point, in which areas, in which price bracket are the ones that are attracting the buyers right now. This will help you to build confidence and put your finger on the pulse of the market so that you can have some confidence in having conversations with sellers to help them navigate the sale of their home. And then number 4, study the last 10 properties that have actually sold. So go into your MLS while you're studying the expireds. We're going to go to the last 10 properties that have gone through the entire process. And we're going to study the entire thing. Create a property scorecard for yourself. How much was it listed for? How much did it sell for? What was the list to sold price ratio? What was the days on market? You want to see the condition of the property, the location of the property, the size of the property, the price bracket of the property. You're trying to look at all of that. Okay? All right. That's knowing the market. Let's talk about pricing strategy. So, in order to get confident around pricing your listings to get them actually sold, the first thing we've got to do is an active listing analysis. We just talked about previewing active properties, right? So when we're pricing property, we already know what? That buyers make their decision by comparing this property with this property. So it only then makes sense that when you go and price your listing and you have that conversation with the seller, that we have to see what it is that our competitors are doing. By competitors, I mean the other active listings. One of the things I recommend highly is you actually take the prospective seller and show them their active listing, not on a piece of paper, not on your laptop, not on your iPad. I'm talking about a physical showing, scheduling it through whatever showing software you use, and actually showing your clients and your prospects what their competitors are doing. This alone will help to set you apart. Number 2 is to then do what we call an active buyer analysis. So you can go inside of your showing software and you can do an analysis. And I do this with all the coaching clients that I work with. And we look at where are the current buyers right now based on showing activity. Where's the most of the traffic? This is how we get a lot of insights around price bracketing, around where these listings need to be positioned in the marketplace, not based on our feeling, but based on real data, based on active buyers in the marketplace right now. And then number 3, based on that data, we can apply what I call a price bracketing strategy to the conversation so that we're positioned in the right price bracket based on buyer demand. And so now we put a science to the way we price property, not just your gut feeling. And then Most of the time, that gut feeling has you feeling uncertain. All right, now let's spend a little time on value proposition. Huge challenge for the real estate agents right now. I mean, with all the stuff happening in the industry right now, this is a massive, massive issue that we have got to figure out. We've got to focus on. And so when we talk about value, let me put some context around that for a second. Because everybody's like, oh, you need to deliver value, deliver value. Right. What does value actually mean? Well, what it means is this. We define value as increasing a seller's certainty while decreasing a seller's risk at the same time. And the bigger gap there is in between those two things, we call that the value ladder, the more value it is that you're delivering. So increasing the seller's certainty that you are the right agent, that you can get the job done, while decreasing the risk at the same time, that to help them make a decision that you are in fact the right agent. So the questions you have to ask yourself is this: what can you offer to the seller that would increase their certainty that you are the right agent to get their home sold? What can you do? What can you offer? And then the next question is, at the same time, what can you offer to decrease their risk in making the decision to hire you today? Because they have all these unanswered questions and concerns in their mind. What can you do that speaks to all of those? We'll talk about that in a second. So, in order for your value proposition to be positioned as what we would say better than your competition, it must first be different. You can't be better and the same. It doesn't work that way. You cannot be better than your competitors and be the same. That's the problem with most real estate agents when they try to articulate their value. Let me explain. You see, when a seller says to an agent, or asks an agent rather, hey, why should I hire you versus another agent? And I've surveyed thousands of agents. Here's their top responses. Number one, well, it's because I give great service. That was the number one response when I surveyed thousands of agents on how do you answer this question? Why should I hire you versus another agent? The number one answer was because I give great customer service. Number two, you can call me anytime you have questions. I'm always available. And then number three, well, I've lived here my whole life. I know the market. Now, here's the interesting thing. These answers came from thousands of different agents in the same market at different companies. They are no different. They're all the same. In other words, if thousands of agents are all giving the exact same answer, and a seller says, well, why should I hire you versus the other agent? And both agents are saying the same thing. Remember, the value proposition, if it's going to be positioned in any type of way that makes you the obvious choice, in order for it to be better, it first must be different. So if no matter where the agent works, they work at Remax or Keller Williams or Century 21 or Billy Bob's Real Estate, and they all say the same thing, this is a huge, huge problem. The value proposition, when you articulate this, has to be focused on being different than that of your competitors. So let me give you a really good example. Let's look at the value proposition of the Red Wings Boots Company, okay? So they offer a 30-day unconditional comfort guarantee to separate themselves from their competitors. Listen to this. It says, if during the first 30 days immediately following your purchase, you are not satisfied with the comfort of your Red Wing branded work footwear for whatever reason, Red Wing will refund the purchase price to you, no questions asked. You just have to have the receipt. So wait a minute. What they're saying is, literally, we go back to, okay, what's the value proposition have to have? it has to do two things. It has to increase certainty and decrease risk. Remember? Okay, well, let's see how they're doing this. Increase certainty that this is the right boot. Well, listen, we're going to actually let you wear the boot for a month before you decide if it's the right boot. We'll give you a month. Walk around, go to work, and you could decide if it's the right boot. Not today, not right now in the store when it's brand new. Who knows if it's the right boot for you? So we're going to increase your certainty that this is the right boot by allowing you a month to wear the thing to decide whether or not it's the right boot or not. And not only that, we're actually going to decrease your risk of making the purchase right now by offering you a no questions asked 30-day refund. That if you don't like the boot, if you find out after wearing it for 30 days to work, you don't like the thing, you'll get your money back. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is being specific, unique. It's clearly differentiating yourself from the competitors. This is what we have to do as real estate agents, because that's a pretty damn good offer if you ask me. There's no risk. I can buy the boot. I can wear the boot for a month and then decide if I want the boot. That's a lot of certainty. That's not a lot of risk versus buying another boot where the second I leave the store, they're not going to give me my money back. Maybe they give me some type of credit and I can't wear it. That's the other thing, right? I can't wear the boot. As soon as you wear this thing, you don't get your money back after you've used the product. Well, not with this company, right? That's what we have to start to do. So let's talk about crafting your value proposition. So your value proposition, it has to address the most common concerns that sellers have. That's what I'm going to challenge you to do in after you watch this video. It has to address the seller's main concerns that they always have. Well, what are those? Number one, the question that they have in their mind is, what happens if you, the real estate agent, don't do what you said you were going to do at the listing appointment? This is a question that all sellers have in their mind. And when you can speak to this as a part of your value proposition, you start to increase the certainty and decrease the risk, helping them make the decision today to hire you as their agent. Starting to connect the dots? What's the next question? Well, what if you don't produce the results? What if you don't produce the results? What if I hire you and you can't get my home sold? We got to speak to that. Our value proposition has to speak to that. Next question, when you're crafting your value proposition, this is the seller. How will I know you're getting the most money for my house versus just trying to get a quick sale and make a commission? How do I know that? Because when you speak to it, you can increase their certainty that that is the case and decrease their risk at the same time. Your value proposition needs to do that. Next question, how are you going to ensure that I walk away with the most money in my pocket? So one question is, hey, we want to make sure that you're selling it for as much as possible, number one, right? And then number two, when we do sell it, how are you going to make sure that I walk away with as much money in my pocket as possible? And then lastly, how are you going to keep me informed during the process? We know that selling a home is right up there with dealing with death and divorce as life's biggest stressors. How are you going to keep me informed during this very stressful time in my life? These are the questions you have to answer when crafting your value proposition.